So we have a bit of a follow-up on Tamara Leach and Chris Barber, the two kind of big organizers with the Freedom Convoy. We know about their legal troubles going through just time after time, all the trials and tribulations that they have had to go through for basically bring Canadians together for a peaceful demonstration. We know how corrupted the federal jurisdictions are. We know about the provincial jurisdictions being corrupted. And they couldn't even come to real conclusion or evidence to base their claims that, you know, they were causing this much ruckus in Ottawa during the event. And they eventually had to charge them with mischief for up to 8 years. Because otherwise, if they couldn't prosecute them, then this would be the biggest waste of time in Canadian history to prosecute two Canadians that just brought people together for a peaceful demonstration. So they charged them with mischief. And it goes even further, folks, because not only are they unlawfully prosecuting two very predominant Canadians for, again, simply just bringing people together at a time of necessary need, but they're also going after the truck. So this is from the National Post. Freedom Convoy organizer Chris Barber fighting to stop Crown seizing his big red truck. That truck has been part of his family for over 20 years, said his lawyer. His children grew up in that truck. So that is his business truck. He is a trucker that delivers goods across the country, and they want to seize his transportation. They want to seize his business because he's a trucker, and they want to go after it. But here, this is from the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms. So they're the organizations that have been fighting against the Crown, against the corrupted jurisdiction, to protect Chris Barber and Tamara Leach. And this truck says legal response filed to protect Chris Barber's truck, Big Red, from government forfeiture. This is September 25th, so just a couple days ago. And it goes on to say the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms announces that lawyers for Saskatchewan trucker and businessman Chris Barber have been filed a formal legal response opposing the Crown's attempt to seize Big Red, the 2004 Kenworth long-haul truck he owns and relies on for his family's trucking business. The prosecution is seeking forfeiture of the truck, valued at more than $150,000, following Mr. Barber's conviction for mischief and obstruction charges linked to the peaceful 2022 Freedom Convoy protests. So, Tamara Leach got 7 years of mischief. But Chris Barber got an extra year because they claimed that not only is he convicted of mischief, but obstructing charges because while he was being federally prosecuted for the Freedom Convoy, they said that he violated his legal terms, that he was telling people, that he was reaching out to people. There was so much confusion out of that. It doesn't even make sense. But they gave him an extra year because they also convicted him of obstruction charges. Just, it makes no sense. It makes no sense. Unless you want to shut down two predominant individuals that brought the country together. Because we know the Canadian government wants us further divided. They want us angry at each other. They want us distracted while they implement authoritarian transfers like the digital ID that we're witnessing in real time. The Crown has applied to seize the truck as offensive-related property, alleging it was used in connection to committing an offense. But Mr. Barber's legal team argues the Ottawa police themselves directed him where to park his truck on Wellington Street and later approved slow rolls of the vehicle as a form of protest. So, Ottawa police, the same Ottawa police we saw cracking the heads of people and going after them and demanding an emergency in the city to further pursue against peaceful demonstrators, they were the ones telling Chris Barber and the truckers where to park. They were telling the truckers where to stay on Wellington Street. It goes, in fact, the truck was moved out of the downtown core at the request of police on February 8, 2022, and never returned. Big Red is essential equipment for Mr. Barber's trucking company, supporting not just Mr. Barber, but also his families and his employees. As the filing explains, a forfeiture order could cause serious economic harm, jeopardizing the viability of the business itself and amounts to disproportionate punishment. So you're going after this guy's livelihood. He spent years being a trucker. He has an entire business that makes money to support his family, to support the employees. So you're not only punishing Chris Barber, but you're punishing the people that work for Chris Barber for this unlawful case, to charge him with mischief and obstruction. Big Red's essential equipment for Mr. Barber's trucking we already read that. Constitutional lawyer Diane Magus said this truck was never a tool of crime. It was a working truck directed by police where to park and moved when they asked, seizing the very vehicle that Chris and his family rely on to earn a living would devastate a legitimate Canadian business. The law was never meant to strip Canadians of their livelihoods in such circumstances, she added. Well, if you look at the Emergencies Powers Act that gave full control of bank accounts in the hands of governments, in the hands of Chrystia Freeland, Justin Trudeau, and others, that could turn off like a light switch, yeah, it kind of did. It was kind of meant to destroy the livelihoods of people. Because if you don't have access to your finances, you don't have access to purchasing food and paying off your bills, or even making an income. Because a lot of income, a lot of people rely on direct deposits. You don't really get personal checks anymore. So cutting off their bank account access destroys all of that. That was the whole point of the Emergencies Powers Act, to destroy the livelihoods of Canadians that they deemed vile, that they deemed evil, that they deemed fringe, because they wouldn't support mandates that were unscientifically proven. Mr. Barber also said the seizure is misguided. I've worked hard all my life as a trucker, and Big Red is the heart of my business. Taking it away wouldn't just be punishing me. It would take away my ability to provide for my family and employees. The filing concludes that the Crown's application should be dismissed. Take an exclusive video tour of Mr. Barber's Big Red truck and see the memories and family history it carries. So they tweeted out this video here. This is Chris Barber in his garage talking about Big Red and why the Canadian government unlawfully is not only targeting him specifically, but it's also going to be a violation for a Canadian business and the employees and his family that are also being punished for this. As we're throwing violent criminals that are repeated offenders back onto the streets. Just want to remind people that. But here's what Chris Barber says.
Hi, everyone. It's Chris Barber here. I would like to take everybody for a little tour on my 2004 W900 Kenworth, the iconic Big Red. As most people know, the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms has been assisting us with this fight right from the start. And I'm just reaching out to show everybody a little ins and outs of the truck that we were fighting for so hard right now in the courts. As definitely the Crown is trying to forfeit this truck and then destroy it because of its symbolic measure. Let's take you up inside the cab. The seats are a little wore out. It is it's been my home for the better part of 22 years. I'd like to show you the collar of the dog Buddy that I had put down in this passenger seat, and I believe it was 2014. The dog traveled with me for the better part of 17 years. This truck has been my life and my family's life for as long as they can remember. We actually have the bunk bed in the back right now down because my daughter's been helping me and piloting with me. So in the evenings we save our hotel costs by her just sleeping up here and I sleep down on the bottom. The kids were literally babies when this truck was new. My son was 7 months old. He was the first one in the passenger seat. And they were raised in this truck and around this truck. They are the ones who named it the Big Red Truck. And then that name stuck from there. And iconically, it is now, it's a piece of history. And the Crown wants to destroy that because of that. So I just wanted to jump on here and do a little video for everyone, just explaining how important this fight is right now for Canadians and myself and my family. And it's because of support from people from the Justice Center right now that allows us to continue this fight. So prayers, and we appreciate the support so greatly. The Justice Center has been basically there from day one. They flew lawyers in to assist us in this in Ottawa in February of 2022, and they continue to stand with us today, thanks to many of the people on staff there, as well as John Carpes. So we appreciate the support, and we really appreciate it. And this fight is far from over, and we are determined, and we are steadfast, and we're going to see this through the end, no matter what. So again, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for all the help over the last number of years. It's been greatly appreciated from my family to yours. Thank you.
There you go. And you know, this channel, myself included, very supportive of Chris Barber and Tamara Leach. Here's, I want to show people the book. You can go get to read for yourself on the whole reason behind Tamara Leach's decision. It's not, you know, she's not a political activist or extremist. She's just a Canadian that felt that it was necessary for her to step up to the plate. Same with Chris Barber. He's been a trucker for many years. We know how important the trucking industry is when it comes to transporting goods and services across the nation. You know, they're the ones that are filling up your grocery stores. They're the ones that are bringing merchandise across from ship ports. We know how essential the trucking industry is. And they're constantly being penalized, not just with the Freedom Convoy, but we also know that they're getting penalized for, you know, replacing a lot of the stable truckers that can drive and work behind the wheel to cheap labor, to foreign drivers that these industries are purposely exploiting migrants to replace adequate truckers and adequate drivers. And they keep claiming that there's not enough people to, you know, support the industry, and that's why we got to go with this. It's absolutely bunk. Because you're telling me that you can't train people to drive a truck. You can't get people to manage to do that. So you're going to bring in people, foreign workers that might not understand English and not understand driving in this country compared to where they were previously. And they're supposed to bring the trucks to places. So it's just absolutely crazy that all this is happening. And luckily, there are people in support of him. There's a lot of Canadians, a lot of groups that are on his side. But again, it's just absolutely insane, this crackdown on people. And I just want to remind that during, this was the former Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, at the time of the pandemic, at the time of the start of the pandemic, this was his tweet. This is Justin Trudeau's tweet before the rain against truckers. And he says, while many of us are working from home, there are others who aren't able to do that, like the truck drivers who are working day and night to make sure our shelves are stocked. So when you can, please hashtag thank a trucker for everything they're doing and help them however you can. That was him in March of 2020. And Justin Trudeau, who got captured by big pharmaceuticals, who got pursued by Chrystia Freeland and Mark Carney, because let's not forget, Mark Carney advised Justin Trudeau on a lot of these policies, the mandates and everything with COVID, got infiltrated and attacked the same people that he thanked. He used the Emergencies Powers Act to villainize the truckers as anti-Canadian, as foreign adversaries, as white supremacists, as xenophobic, as Nazis, as extreme right racists and fascists. He then demonized the people as a fringe minority. The same people that he thanked for delivering goods and services across the country that are essential. These are essential workers. He then further demonizes because he was captured by the big pharmaceutical lobbyists and the mafia state, colluding with Justin Trudeau to demonize the people he once thanked because they wouldn't comply with the mandate. And it wasn't because they're anti-vax, whatever lie that the CBC or CTV or Global tells you. They weren't anti-vax because a lot of these truckers, a lot of people in this industry were the highest vaccination rate in the country. They're the highest vaccination occupation in the country. But what they were against was all the mandates. They were against the force that the government was tyrannizing against Canadians. That's why the truckers did what they did. And that's why so many other people from all walks of life, we saw Black Canadians, we saw Asian Canadians, we've seen LGBTQ, we saw First Nations, we saw so many people coming together for that moment. And that's what Tamara Lich explains in her book here. She's not a extremist. She's not a political activist to, stir up ruckus. She was there as a Canadian to support other Canadians. But now they're demonizing further and further, going after the truck that's going to threaten the livelihoods of Chris Barber, his family, the employees that work for his trucking company. And also it's going to threaten the businesses because you're going after truckers. Well, who's going to deliver the goods then? Who's going to deliver the goods if Chris Barber and more truckers go down because of them fighting against a mandate that we know isn't effective? We know that's government overreach. There's no scientific evidence to back all these measures. We have proven this time and time before. They've lied to you. They have lied to you throughout the entire term of the psychological warfare that came with COVID. They lied to you. And they lied to you because of outlets like the CBC. So this just happened recently. I want to show this. So as CBC Watcher points out, they're talking about James Comey. So right now in the United States, James Comey is getting indicted by the Trump administration. And we can go into detail about James Comey. He's a schmuck. He's a liar. He coerced with the Clinton campaign to manufacture Russiagate. We know that the FBI lied about the emails. They lied about so many other things. So James Comey is not an innocent person. Let's just say that. But watch the CBC getting so frantic about Trump going after James Comey. And as CBC Watcher points out, has anyone ever seen a report on the CBC about the vindicative or selective prosecution of Tamara Lich or Chris Barber in Canada? No. I would say no. I'd say a lot of the outlets support the unlawfare tactics going against these two. So they're trying to paint James Comey as being this innocent man, a serial liar in the FBI, as an innocent man because Trump's going after him. But when our own government goes after our own citizens who are very wholesome, who all they did was brought this country together in a time of need to go after tyranny, the CBC, the state media, did not say a word about this. But listen what they say about how horrific it is that Trump's going after Comey.
Now, this indictment is expected to face some legal hurdles. What could happen if this case moves forward?
Well, a number of legal analysts have suggested that Comey's team could challenge the premise of these charges, saying that it would be a vindictive or selective prosecution, that they would be able to point to the president's deleted Truth Social tweet, as well as some of the public comments he's made.
So, again, they're trying to stick up for James Comey. They're saying, well, his legal team can go after Trump for making a selective prosecution. Selective. You mean that he was the former director of the FBI, he had the upper hand, he had the authority, and he lied to Americans? You know, that kind of selective? They're making a defense case for him, but not for Chris Barber, not for Tamara Lich, not for the people, the innocent Canadians that just brought people together for a peaceful demonstration. It's so openly transparent. The bias of CBC, the bias of CTV, Global, City News, all these outlets. It's unbelievable just how one-sided their argument is. And again, all this does is cover up our wrongdoings and further prosecutes go after Trump. Which is why that elbows up manufacturing psyop works so well for the Canadian public, because the whole time since 2015 or so, CBC in particular have definitively went against Trump. Definitively went against Trump at every single point in turn. They have nonstop spread so much perception against Trump. And again, I'm not defending Trump in this regard. I know there's a lot of things we could criticize Trump on, and we have on this channel. We know that he's, following pursuit of, building a police state, authoritarian, cracking down on free speech, so on and so forth. I'm not saying Trump is innocent, but they're purposely doing this to try to distract people from our wrongdoings. The fact that a trucker who provides necessities to all these businesses around the world, provides food to grocery stores, transports all these goods and services across the country, is being threatened. That his livelihood, that his family, that his employees, that other businesses that rely on him are being threatened with unlawfare tactics, and the CBC doesn't say a word about it. And if it does bring to attention, they'll just say, well, they were making noise in Ottawa. They were cracking down on businessmen. There was destruction. I've seen so many people make that argument. And as I stated, Ottawa is like Toronto, like any other big metropolitan area. They have security cameras. If they did destroy windows and cause property damage, where's the proof? Show me the proof. Show me the evidence. They can't. Ottawa police says they have evidence, but they can't show it to us. Isn't that interesting? The same Ottawa police that apparently talked to Chris Barber and allowed him to park on Wellington Street. They didn't approach Parliament. They were on the street. But apparently that's enough to make a mischief charge for 8 years, obstruction to justice, and threaten to take away his truck, which threatens the ultimate livelihood of this man. So, my support goes off to him. I hope for the best. I hope that he's able to fight back, but it just goes to show you how unbelievable that the perception of trying to cover up Canada's wrongdoings by putting the blame on America and, the CBC trying to protect James Comey, of all people, and just willing to throw Chris Barber and Tamara Leach under the bus for bringing this country together. Wow. Unbelievable.